Hello and welcome everyone to a Keystone Contractor Association webinar. This is part of Mental Health Awareness Month. As we all know, that's in May. And the KCA Mental Health Awareness Task Force had this great idea to create a weekly webinar series. And we've had the who's who of mental health rock stars, help us deliver these webinars here. We had Kara in week one. Let's talk about mental health. Kara McCaffrey from HALP. Week two, from Skill Signal, we had Sebastian. He brought it home, talking about all the great resources. And then week three, that's today. That's where we are today. And we are honored to have Chris Lalevee from Operating Engineers 825. He's going to talk about a little Narcan 101, and that's a initiative of the KCA this year. We want to promote Narcan on every construction job site in Pennsylvania. And Chris's expertise knows no state boundaries. He comes today from New Jersey, and we're thrilled to have him talking to great contractors in the state of Pennsylvania. So without further ado, I'm going to hide my face and listen to the Chris Show. So take it away, Chris.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me, and definitely, thanks for doing this, because it is very important. I don't know that everybody really understands it, and I think there's a little bit of stigma around Narcan or Naloxone, which is what you'd actually want to call it. But hopefully we could break down some of those barriers and get people a little bit more interested today. A lot of things that I hear is that it's, an enabler. I don't believe that. What I believe naloxone is a lifesaver. So when we start to talk about the opioid crisis and things of that nature, that's really where, this all starts to stem from. And we hear about fentanyl. So I wanted to start it off really with, what is fentanyl? When we look at it, what is fentanyl? So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's a pain reliever, and it's 50 times more powerful than heroin and 100 times more powerful than morphine. Now, it's nothing new because it was developed in 1959 and put into effect in 1960. And its main purpose was an intravenous anesthetic. That's what fentanyl was made to do. So we do still use it in America under controlled, areas when it comes to anesthesiologists and when it does come to pain medications. But it does get produced out of the country and smuggled in. And that's the biggest issue that we have right now, is that the fentanyl is getting smuggled in. And the two areas are China and Mexico, but it's coming from everywhere and it's getting mixed into everything. When you think about street drugs, you think about cocaine, heroin, street pills, and even marijuana in a synthetic form. And with fentanyl, the body builds up a tolerance. So there's a decent amount of people that are addicted and they take fentanyl straight, but it could be snorted, it could be smoked, taken orally as pills, like I had said, spiked onto paper. And again, alone when your tolerance starts to get built up. When we look at the amount of fentanyl for somebody that doesn't have substance use disorder, it only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl. That's a lethal dose, which is scary. And this is a very popular picture that I have up here. But that really just kind of gives you how much it takes, a couple grains of sand. But what does fentanyl do? And how does it kill? What fentanyl does is it attaches itself to the brain receptors that tells the body to breathe. And that basically slows down the breathing and finally stops the breathing. And because fentanyl puts the person in such a euphoric state, the person doesn't react. So the breathing stops and the person dies. So now we come to naloxone. And what is naloxone? We hear a lot about it. Narcan is a brand, but naloxone. And naloxone was developed to reverse this. It was developed back in 1961. So you had one come in 1960, you had the other come in 1961. And it was approved by the FDA in 1971, and it was originally only an injectable. So it was an injectable substance. So it would only be carried by ALS, advanced life support medics and doctors. In 2015, we started seeing a lot of overdose. The overdose rate rose and rose and rose. And naloxone was approved in a spray form. So sometimes you'll see this, what I have here. This is the nasal spray. This is the Narcan brand. It's a nasal spray. This is in the package, ready to go and be used. This is what it looks like. It's very small. It's 4 milligrams. And this gets put into the nostril. The plunger gets pushed and the Narcan gets deployed up the nasal cavity into the brain. And what it does is it knocks the opioids out that are on those receptors. It knocks those off, telling the body to return to breathing and saving a life. Now, we talk about opioids in construction, and that's what we're here. We're all pretty much here with construction, and we talk about opioids and naloxone in construction. And it's important to know that the two leading pathways to addiction is surgery and workplace injury. And when you think of those two things, that has construction written all over it. And we look at things, your pain reliever, like Oxycontin, like Percocet, like Vicodin, they were all given out to combat workplace injury and recover from surgery. So that being said, with the construction industry so in depth with your workplace injuries and your surgeries, these pills were being handed out, and a thing like Oxycontin was sold to us as a non-addictive pain reliever. So this created an epidemic meaning for the spike that went into the overdose rate and the addiction rate. Now, when we go to construction and opioids, something that's very important to know in this is that construction leads all other industries in overdose deaths. So we are number one in overdose deaths. That's a very sad number. And when we look at opioids, over 75% of overdose deaths are due to opioids. So if this doesn't constitute naloxone on a construction site, then I don't know really what does. We can go over the signs of what an overdose looks like, and it's pretty much straightforward. No breathing or shallow breathing, constricted pupils or pinned pupils, you may hear it called, clammy skin, pretty much everything you've learned in CPR, almost the same thing. But what do we do? First and foremost, it's very important to know that if you administer naloxone to a patient that is not having an overdose crisis, it will not harm that person whatsoever. So again, person goes down, it's not an opioid crisis, you've put naloxone in their nose, you've sprayed it, it will not harm that person whatsoever. And that's really, really important to know. And it's a very frequently asked question. The next step is to call 911 to get emergency help on the way. Ideally, if somebody else is around, you can get the naloxone into the nostril, stay with the patient, and have somebody call 911. One question I got asked when I was doing a presentation was, well, doesn't emergency services have naloxone with them? I said, yes, they do. And the presentation I was given was to a couple of different contractors. And that specific contractor I had worked for, he was a bridge builder. And my question to him was, I understand what you're saying, but I've worked for you. We did a bridge together. When you call and you have the overdose, what is the information you give to the first responders? Are you eastbound or are you westbound? Are you on top of the bridge or are you below the bridge? Is there an access road? You know, all this losing precious time to save a life. So those are the things that you need to think about if you're asking yourself that question, or that's your pathway to say, well, first responders have it, we don't need it. Get the person in a comfortable position, ideally on the back. If you get your hand under their neck very gently and just lift a little bit, that'll help tilt the head back. You bring in your naloxone up their nose, deploy the whole thing. You stay with them. You can deploy it every 2 to 3 minutes. And if you're trained, you can start to incorporate rescue breathing. So now where do we get naloxone? Best place I found for construction companies to get naloxone is Safe Project. That's at Safe Project US. They're out of Washington, D.C. You can get in touch with them. Please check out their website. Their website's full of great information. But they can get you naloxone shipped, or ship it right to your door. There's training on their website as well, and you can start deploying this throughout your company. This is the big question, is what's the liability? You know, that's a very big word in our industry, but it's an attorney's word. And when people ask me what the liability is, I ask them what the liability of doing nothing is. So if somebody can explain to me what the liability of doing nothing is, I'd be more than happy to talk more about liability. But I think it's a null and void subject. But if you go to the next place that you see under here in Safe Project, ANSW, which is the Alliance of Naloxone Safety in the Workplace, if you go there, you're going to find a lot of frequently asked questions. Another thing you'd like to do is you'd like to check your state's Good Samaritan laws. And because I'm talking to mostly people in Pennsylvania, naloxone administration is protected under the Good Samaritan law. So that is good to know. If you're from a different state, you can go to safeproject.us and you can look at the Good Samaritan law state by state there. They have it all broken down. But if you go to answ.org, what there is there's over 30 frequently asked questions. There's workplace policy you can download. There's training. So between Safe Project and ANSW, I think those two would put you on the best track to putting naloxone in effect in your workplace. Couple quick questions that are on the higher end of what we get asked is, does naloxone expire? Yes, it does. There's usually a 3-year expiration date. If it is expired, I tell people all the time to use it anyway. It can't hurt. Storage, you know, I'd love to say that 65 to 75 degrees out of direct sunlight, but we don't work in that kind of an industry. So good spots to store naloxone are with an AED machine, a first aid kit, job site trailer, toolbox or glove box of site trucks, foreman trucks, things of that nature, and to have it on hand. Like I said, those are the top questions, and I'm very, very happy to answer any questions if somebody wanted to ask or put them in the chat. But if you go to ANSW, like I said, the frequently asked questions are there. You can go right down the list. So like I said, between the two, you can get just about all the answers needed about naloxone, as well as training for your workforce. Really, in closing, in our industry, we do the CPR training. We have AEDs on our job sites, and we train on those. why wouldn't we implement naloxone and train our people who have the highest rate of overdose? It's not really a question of do you need it? It's a question of when will you need it? So I think preparation is most important. I'm free to answer any questions. My information is here. You can reach out to me at any time. I'm pretty much an open book on it. And this is shorter than the other two, but I can't sit here and beat up the subject too much. But I'm free to take any questions, John. So
You bet. Yeah. Well, it might not be shorter, so let's see about the Q&A part. Um, we do have a couple in the chat, but before we get to them, I just wanted to ask a question that you touched on briefly as far as where can you get this?
sure.
You mentioned safe projects,
Yes.
safe project, I'm sorry. Um, can you get that in bulk, or is there a
Yes, so Safe Project will get it to you in bulk. What I tell a lot of people is if you have kids, especially teenagers, it's smart to have in your house.
Mhm.
And you can go to a website which is next distro distro.org, and they will send you naloxone for free.
Hmm.
Um,
Good.
So it's just good to know. You fill out a little thing on their website. They send it right to you. There's no questions asked. I have it in my house. I'm the father of a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. I unfortunately they have a friend who has passed from an overdose already. That was last year. And that pretty much there tells the story of why it's hanging in my closet ready to go.
Hmm. And to answer another question that people might have, Chris has given a lot of great resources and links during this presentation. As a follow-up, we will be sending the presentation with a bunch of the links. But don't worry about jotting that down right now. But now we can move to the chat here. So Sebastian has a question. I don't know if you want to ask it or if you want me to read it, Sebastian. I'm fine either way. He
Go ahead.
says,
Go ahead.
okay, does someone need to be breathing to administer Narcan efficiently?
Someone need to be breathing. Well, no, if the breathing is shallow, like I said, it's not going to hurt them in any way. So if their breathing is very labored, and when you think about the human body, how many breaths you take per minute, we learn that in CPR. So if somebody is down to 3 to 4 breaths a minute, I would definitely administer naloxone. I would start that process right away to try to move those off the receptors and get that person breathing.
And Chris, this is Sebastian. The question was is more around, is the medication, does the medication go to the brain through the breathing, or does it have an impact?
You mean if somebody is not breathing?
Yeah.
If somebody is not breathing, the naloxone will get to where it needs to go.
Okay. Wow.
You can get it in injectable form. A lot of people are not too keen on it just because it's yeah, who wants to give somebody a shot? And this is very easy. But yes, it will get to where it needs to go if the person is not breathing.
Thank you. That was a
You
question.
got it. And I hear your Jersey accent. You're doing good, buddy.
I like it.
Trying
And it
my
looks
best.
like, oh, I'm sorry. Looks like Raymond Haig had a comment. I think that was associated with Sebastian's question.
Sure.
Yes, it was. I'm actually medically trained, and it does help distribute the medication. If you don't mind me adding, when you do get the naloxone, it would be best to roll them on their side in case they start vomiting.
It's a very good practice. When you go into the long short of it of putting people in the safe position, I agree with you. Being in the construction industry, that's not always going to be the case. So I do that in the longer, what they call the safe position on the side because of vomiting. I also give my 15 minutes of stick it up their nose and squirt it. But you know, you look at it a lot of times, but it's a great point, Raymond. You know, you do have to watch for vomiting, and stay with the patient. You want to stay with the person. And then when, you know, when your medical service gets there, whether that's ambulance, cops, whatever that looks like, you know, you can get out of the way. But at least you can tell them, you know, I gave 2 doses of naloxone. I gave, you know, this is what happened. So, and it's important to know that if the person does come back from the overdose, they still need to get to the hospital. And thanks, Raymond, because that made me think of that. If the person comes through from the overdose, if the opioid is heavy within their body, if the naloxone did its job, when the naloxone wears off, the opioid could go back to what it's doing. So it's very important that the people that this happens to get to the hospital, not that they woke up and they're okay. It's they have to get there.
And then Seth asked, does it normally take more than 1 dose of Narcan to revive a person?
You know, when you get the pack, it'll come with 2 of these. Like I said, every 2 to 3 minutes. My naloxone kit that I carry with me everywhere, I have 4 of them. Knock wood, I haven't had to use it yet. So I don't know if there is a statistic there of how much it has taken, but I would say that there is a reason that there's 2 per kit. I guess it would depend on how much of the opioid is in the body and how much was taken.
And that is it for the chat. Who else has questions here? You can ask them live. As Chris said, it's a pretty straightforward topic, and he did a great job explaining it.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. If you leave it in a hot truck, will that make it less effective over time?
You know,
can you store it in a hot truck?
The storage directions are on there. Will it make it less effective? Absolutely. That'll do that to any medication. At the end of the day, this is the construction industry. So, you know, we have to work with what we have. So, you know, ideal things, if you have a job site trailer, that's great. I worked a lot of years out in the field and there was no job site trailer. So, you know, it all depends what kind of job you're on. It really does. So, will it go bad? Yes. But if it's bad or expired, like I said, you still use it. It's something. Something is better than nothing.
Thank you.
You got it.
We had a few people jump in during your talk. I don't know if they joined, just asked a good question or not, but we had a few people just join late. So if you have questions, feel free to fire away. We are currently in the Q&A portion of the event. And I just wanted to add too that like I mentioned earlier, KCA is going to recommend this on every job site. In your travels across the country, I'm not sure if you've seen that or not or whatever, but I'm sure you have. So any sort of best practices or advice that you have for us and contractors, you know, feel free to fire away, and we're always looking for guidance and assistance. So
yeah. We have opioid awareness next month, right, John?
Yep, we do. Last week of July.
For you know, for KCA to take this, you know, the bull by the horns, if you would, it's great. And I know you reached out to me, but I'll also say at ANSW, we're looking for people, companies that support, and I'm happy to say KCA and also Sebastian from Skill Signal. I got your email. What we're looking for is for people that will support this initiative. It was 23 of us from across the country, passion project, no funding, and we came up with a pretty good product so far, and we're going to keep it going.
Good stuff. Yeah, you're doing amazing stuff. I'm proud to say I know you.
You're the one.
Yeah, I'm the one. Yeah, that's. Any other questions here? Something you're thinking about?
Again, if anybody has any questions, all my information is here.
Yeah.
I know you said you were going to send out the slide deck.
Yeah.
But please feel free if you want to email me. My cell phone is there. We're on the social media outlets. So, you know, that's just within what I do here at Local 825 with the Members Assistance Program. But, you know, there are no dumb questions. There really are no dumb questions. And quite frankly, I don't believe I know it all, but I will try to find out anything that you may wonder, and it may even help us out in the long run, you know, because you don't think of everything. Just when you thought of it all, something else pops up. That's why, like I said to Seth, you know, yeah, hot truck, I get it, but better to have it than not have it.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's again, it's not the perfect scenario, and you can almost look at it like the military. You know, I'm sure a lot of their supplies shouldn't have been in the heat and things like that, but you know, you can't always run a refrigerated truck or whatever it is. So they did what they had to do, and they get it to where they have to get it. And that's what's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah, as mentioned, we will be getting out all the resources that were referenced in this presentation, and we will include Chris's contact information. So if you have any additional questions you'd like to ask him or myself or anyone else, you know, feel free to email them or call us or whatever. And we want to get those answers for you. And then I just want to add too that next week concludes our month of mental health awareness webinars. We are featuring a webinar on Tuesday, May 28th at noon, titled Living, Working, and Fixing Anxiety and Depression from a Construction Executive. I'm excited about this. A gentleman, an executive construction company owner out of Southeast Pennsylvania, has had some mental health concerns and some issues, and he is living a better life today, and he wants to share his story and his path to a better life in hopes of helping others. So I'm excited and can't wait for that. But I just really want to thank Chris for his presentation today, and his efforts have been great in this area. And I think we're all better off for knowing you and hearing your comments today. So just thank you, Chris. Thanks.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you and what Keystone's doing. It's important. It's very important.
Thanks.
I think there's a hand raised, John.
Oh, who has a question before we depart?
Caitlin?
Yeah, me. So, my brother is a recovering addict, and I don't know. I feel like there were times where he had OD'd or whatever, and I panicked. Like, I mean, it was in my house, the stuff, the Naloxone, and I don't know, like, if I was put in this situation again, like, I don't know if I mean, I would try my best, obviously, it's my brother's life. But like, I just, I panicked and like, I guess like, had to get over the panic and just get it. Like, you know, like, I think I would be like, oh, am I doing it right? Or, yeah, I don't know. Like that kind of stuff would come into my mind, or like I would just be so upset that that's what happened that it would be like hard for me to even think to like you know, like I don't know, like I just panicked and then like be hard for me to even think like, okay, this is what I gotta do, da, 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 because I'm just so upset that he's in that state.
Yeah, I think that's a very normal feeling for anybody to have, Caitlin. You know, CPR the same, naloxone the same. You know, I totally understand it, but you know, it's not the worst thing to, you know,
Yeah.
check into how to do it and, double check how to do it a couple times a year. It's not the worst thing in the world. But I hear what you're saying. It's very different when it's family sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm glad you raised that. People always say, "Oh, well, if I was there, I would have done this. I would have done that." And you don't know what you would have done until you're in that situation. So I'm glad you're
Very, very easy to Monday morning quarterback.
absolutely.
Everything is very easy.
Yes.
You don't know until you are in that spot. But knowing that at least you do have some knowledge under your belt, that puts you a little bit further ahead.
Okay.
And I wish your brother well.
Yeah, I mean, luckily he is clean right now, so he's been clean for 10 years, but hopefully I'm not in the predicament where I have to, but just in case, it's always good to, learn how to do it, and it saves lives. So I'm all on board for it.
Yep. It's a horrible disease, and I think that's one of the things we have to remember about addiction. And we also have to remember that not everybody that has an addiction problem overdoses this way. So
Mhm.
this isn't about addicts. This is people, you may have been prescribed something by a doctor, took it in the morning. You're supposed to take one in the afternoon, forgot that you took it in the morning, take it again, and next thing you know, you're laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Your three biggest pressed pills that are going around out there are Oxycontin, Percocet, and Xanax. So you think of the world we live in, and here we are, Mental Health Month, and KCA is doing mental health awareness and things like that. How many times did you grab an aspirin from somebody? The same way you might grab a Xanax from somebody, and that somebody has a pressed pill and didn't want to hurt you, but you got the one. And it's, the statistics are 7 out of 10 street pills contain a lethal dose. And that's scary. So, when you start breaking it down like that, this isn't about people with as much as addiction problems are horrible, it's not about people with addiction problems on the job site. It's all of us. It's all of us. It's your kids at home that are going to experiment as much as you tell a teenager not to do it. I remember when I was a teenager, and I think we could all remember all the things we were told not to do that we did anyway. So,
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Cynthia Davis. I'm actually an occupational health nurse, but I handle a family member. I lost my son to the fentanyl analogs. I actually have a nonprofit organization that I started in his honor. But as a medical professional, and I'm sorry, I'm coming in on the tail end of your presentation, so I'm not sure exactly what all you've covered. I think one thing that the mainstream media gets incorrect is that fentanyl or medicinal fentanyl is different than fentanyl analogs, which I think there needs to be a distinction between those, because it's the fentanyl analogs that actually kill people because they send them into respiratory arrest, within seconds, within minutes.
Yes, we did go over that, Cynthia.
Yeah. So, and then also China has came up with other compounds, which is the xylazine, which is not non-opiate based.
That was
So,
actually American. Xylazine was made right here in the good old USA, which is trank dope. And yeah, that's a tough one now getting mixed in.
yeah, so Narcan will not work on xylazine because it's non-opiate based.
Nope, not yet. There's nothing against xylazine as of now. We're getting a little bit closer because there is xylazine test strips out now.
Yeah.
But there is nothing as far as reversing.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Cynthia. And what's the name of the foundation?
It is Caleb's Prayer for Hope Foundation Incorporated. And what I'm trying to do, there's been many nonprofits that have been developed by grieving parents for this particular cause. And so what I'm trying to do in my foundation is come from a scientific standpoint, provide scholarly articles on the site that explain this problem and how to go about the prevention of addiction, helping those that are in addiction actively, those that are trying to get recovery, yeah, and help for grieving families, because this has been one of the leading causes of death in the U.S.
Yep. It's continued to rise.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfortunate, and the rise has been continued. There's been a little bit of a back off on it, but it's horrible.
Yes. And it's claiming lives from infancy for those that are in homes that are exposed to the fentanyl analogs, up to, I'm probably telling you something you don't already know, up to the 45, I think it is, between the ages of 15 and 45, but claiming so many young lives as well. It's devastating. And there's an organization that's actually called One Pill Kills, and it's based on those that have died from, say like a 13-year-old may say, I'm having trouble with my grades, I don't know what to do. And another friend will say, well, hey, I know a guy that's got an Adderall. Why don't you take that, So he takes the pill home, takes a quarter of it, but gets those 2 to 3 grains of salt size of the fentanyl analog. And the next morning his parents find him and he's gone.
Yep, very much so. It's you don't know what you're getting. I hate to say this term, but recreational drugs, you really have to question what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, there's definitely a lot more education and correct information that needs to be, relayed in the media and through other organizations, that people have a clear understanding exactly what is happening here.
We're all trying, right? We're all trying. And I think it's great what you're doing with your foundation, and don't give up.
That's funny you say that, because my son's favorite saying was never give up.
That's it. Never give up.
Yeah, we were had already planned to do this organization, planned for the website, writing a book together. We wanted to give others hope in their struggle, their battle against addiction. And but he was doing fine. He was sober, had a thriving business, and relapsed during COVID when everyone began to suffer. And when he asked someone for methadone, they gave him whatever it was that was laced with a fentanyl analog.
I'm so sorry to hear that, and that's a shame. But you're keeping it going, and that's important.
Yeah. But thank you for allowing me to speak. Like I said, I'm so sorry. I actually work on a Microsoft construction site in Wyoming, and
Okay.
they're super busy, but I'm also trying to carry on what my son and I have planned with the foundation and so forth.
I'd love to hear more about your foundation. When John sends out the slides, my information's on there, so please feel free to reach out to me.
Oh, I've already done a screenshot of your contact information,
Okay.
because I want to reach out to you. So
yeah, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cynthia, thank you for sharing. And I don't know when you joined or not, but I made mention that I'll be sending out resources following the webinar. And if you, with your foundation, have, it sounds like you have a lot of great stuff on your site. So if you want to send me some stuff, I could include that in the email.
Yeah. And one of the things that I do have on my site, actually 2 resources. One is there is a gentleman who is a journalist that actually was able to infiltrate China and get into the labs where they were creating the fentanyl analogs or the precursors. And the book is called Fentanyl Incorporated, and it's an excellent book. The other resource is a documentary that was developed and produced by another lady who lost her son. She has a PhD and works for Vanderbilt University, and she produced a documentary called Speaking Through Me. Her son was 17. And an excellent documentary that describes in a very simplistic form the scientific basis behind addiction and the cycle of addiction, where it changes the brain chemistry and so forth. And that's why you have such a high rate of relapse. It's very difficult once your brain chemistry is changed by these other chemicals. It's tough for your brain to heal and to prevent further relapse. But it has to be done in a manner and by medical professionals who use the right type of regimen to help a person beat this battle of addiction.
Yeah, I look forward to learning more about your foundation, and I'll follow up with you afterwards.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your strength today and
Thank you.
sharing with us. Same with Caitlin too. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And thanks especially to Chris for steering the ship today.
More than happy to, John. I appreciate, again, I appreciate you guys, what you're doing, taking it head on, opening up the discussion, because that's really what it's all about, getting more people to hear it. So there's 2 people on here or 300 people, people still hurt. So that's what's important.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, let's all keep fighting the good fight. And again, we'll follow up with some info, and please don't hesitate to contact myself, Chris, or anyone on this call today. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.